owned consecutively by both Alan Bear and the Brandeis family, right?
Yes. In my book, I talk about a funeral home because at the time when I wrote about it, I believed it was on the outskirts of town, which when I was a child, it was on the outskirts of town. 72nd Street was basically the edge of town, and everything else out west was just starting to develop. And I talk about games of hide and seek where you went from pitch black to so bright that you were blinded and couldn't see. And children were being murdered while they played hide and seek because the whole rule of the game is if you were found, you were murdered. And so, of course, you hid, thinking, hoping that you would save your life. And
now, yesterday you talked about there were children that were buried alive in graves, including yourself. Right. Was this sometimes a similar thing where they were just basically traumatizing children with the threat of death, or were these children actually murdered?
Oh, the children were murdered, and you were threatened by the threat of death. Because what would happen is that they would ultimately, my sister and I have talked about it, and whenever they did their little games, they always knew who they were going to murder. They always knew. As a child, I didn't know who they were going to murder. But looking back as an adult, I realized that they always did. And so you would be hiding in this house for your life, and they would be catching people and torturing kids, and you could hear the kids screaming. Now, people would say, in a neighborhood, a residential neighborhood, wouldn't you hear? No, you wouldn't, because the house that this was all happening in was Alan Bear's old house. And so there's all kinds of passageways. It's designed to be, there's all kinds of secret passageways and areas that don't make sense and walls that don't make sense and all of that. And it is a very prestigious neighborhood full of huge old mansions with a lot of property around them.
So you thought that this was a funeral parlor. What made you think that at the time?
Because of the activities that were going on at Forest Lawn Cemetery that I did remember for a fact. There is a chapel that was built in Forest Lawn Cemetery by the Freemasons. And I distinctly remember child sacrifices happening in that chapel. I remember having to play hide and seek and being in the crematorium downstairs because the crematorium is below the chapel. And a tunnel leading out to the woods, which was a graveyard, which it all exists.
People have said that there couldn't possibly be as many murders of children and no bodies found. But there have been cases reported where children were buried in coffins along with other corpses that they were just hidden underneath so that there were burials that no one knew about children, and that's one of the ways they would get rid of the evidence. Do you know other ways?
The crematorium was used highly, and so they would just be cremated, and the ashes would be put into the graves with other people. A lot of the children found their resting spot in a place. My mother always called it Babyland. I went to Forest Lawn. I've only been there twice.
This is Forest Lawn in Omaha, Nebraska, as opposed to any other Forest Lawn.
Right, Forest Lawn Cemetery in Omaha, Nebraska.
And where did these children come from in the first place?